You're really going to need your Bibles this morning or your phones or whatever. And I'm going to need mine too. So that's going to, we'll see how it goes. Been a long time since I've read this thing up here, right? So, yeah, looking forward to it. We got to go on a great trip last week, and I'll tell you about that in just a second. But I heard Austin did an amazing job. Thank you, Austin, wherever you're sitting. I wasn't going to say anything, but he was so nice to me, I felt like I had to say something. Did he go teach kids? Never mind. No, I heard he did an amazing job, and yeah, he kind of set the bar kind of high. So I apologize in advance for the sermon this morning. But we had a great trip. We did a wedding, and it was a wedding unlike anything else. All of my friends that I went to Bible college with, and I was in their first weddings, have all got divorces, and now they're getting remarried, and so I get to be a part of their weddings again. And so that's what I've been doing this year. It's been the remarriage tour, and it's really been a cool thing to see, and just some bad situations get better, and then to have people that found just something in somebody else that is just so beautiful and amazing, and we got to be a part of this. But it was interesting because this is a whole different kind of wedding. So we went to Philadelphia. We flew into Philadelphia, and man, I didn't realize. I thought Philadelphia. I don't know why I thought this. I thought it was in the middle of Pennsylvania. It's like almost in the ocean. I mean, it's way over there, and so our flight was longer than I thought it was going to be. It was just. I just haven't spent that much time up there. And we drove up north, up into New Jersey, along the Delaware River, and then back into Pennsylvania. That place is amazing. Has anybody spent time up there? Oh, my goodness. I had no idea. It was amazing. I saw Washington's Crossing, where Washington crossed the Delaware. Yeah, it's a lot more impressive in the picture, but or in the painting. But it was amazing, but what we did, and this is going to go along with the message this morning, believe it or not. The message this morning, usually you would have the title up there, I forgot. The message this morning is titled Legacy. Legacy. And it's just the end of Elisha's life. It's not even all that dramatic, but there's something kind of dramatic that happens in the end that I'm going to ask a question of us and just give us maybe something to think about as we go out of here. But this wedding was really well thought out. What they did was they were coming from two different angles of life, and they each had several different angles of their life and people groups that they had hung with. And they thought, we're going to invite our people to this wedding. Just the people that love us, we love them. And the way they thought it through was, we want to invite couples and people to this wedding that we know get along with us, but we think will get along with each other. We spent 4 days together on this farm and got to know each other. And we had the best conversations. We had these meals together with 30 of us around this table and just talking. And we did that every day, a couple times a day. And it was just a great time of just really appreciating people and what they bring to the table. And we built some really good relationships. And it was really exciting for Joy and I. It really was. It was just an amazing time. And the cool part is, this was not a churchy thing. We weren't near a church. We weren't doing a church wedding. It wasn't anything like that. I had more Jesus conversations over those 4 days than at any Bible conference that I've ever went to. Everybody there had church trauma. Everybody there had religious trauma. Everybody there had things. And we were able to have these deep, meaningful conversations that blew my mind, that weren't just me feeding into somebody. It was me feasting at the table. And it was just such a good thing. And it's interesting that I had this message before this trip. I had no idea how this trip would go. But I had this message before, and as we get into it, And it's not going to be long, I don't think. But have you heard that before? Or is that, were you like, I don't understand. But anyway, so the idea of who do we really want to be in this life? And what do we want to be remembered for? You know? What do we want to be remembered for? And I was thinking about this. I grew up in church. I went to Bible college. And I've been to many, many Bible conferences. And I've spoken. I did the math one time. I'm up at like 1,500, 2,000 sermons, something like that. I've done over 500 here. And then, I've heard a lot of sermons. I've given a lot of sermons. I got to be honest, I don't remember hardly any of them. I don't remember hardly any of them. There's value in this. There is, for sure. I'm not trying to belittle that at all. But the true value that as I get older, I'm over 50. I know I'm not old necessarily. It's all relative, I suppose, but I hope there's some wisdom with that. I hope this white beard, and I let my hair grow out a little bit. I let the sides of my head grow out a little bit. Kind of like one of those Play-Doh things, you used to push and it would squirt out the side. And I let it grow out a little bit on this trip, and I'm like, that is stone cold gray. Like it's white. What it was coming out was white. And I hope all that hasn't been wasted on silliness, right? As you get this age, you look in the mirror and you realize I don't think I look old until I see somebody I went to school with, and I'm like, man, they look old. And I'm like, is that how I look? I don't. And some of you know what I'm talking about, right? Where you're like, man, who is that? And you look it up, and they're like 4 years younger than you. And you're like, what? Yeah, how? And so joy somehow keeps her youthful exuberance. But me, on the other hand, maybe I don't. But I hope that with that age and with that that process, I hope there's some wisdom there that I can pass along. It's hard to see yourself changing from being the one taught to being the one teaching. That's a hard process because you always want to stay teachable. But I think there are things that you learn as you go through life that you can pass along. And one of them, I believe, as we get older, is the value of true friends. The value of people that give you life. You know what I mean? That give you life. And the beautiful ability to give others life because you're around them. I've seen, there's just so many disturbing trends that happen. But I've seen this trend in, I don't know if it's evangelical or just church circles. And I'm certainly not going to name names or anything like that. Not in this context. But I've seen these trends that are all about what you do or how you say certain things or what the things that you're supposed to talk about, or else you're, a coward, or you're this or that, which is all just BS. But I didn't cuss. I just initialed the cuss words. If you wrote it down on a piece of paper and described this, I'd sign off on it, but I wouldn't say it. But it's just all just silliness. But it doesn't get to the heart of the matter. It's the easy way out. To me, what's valuable is relationships. Relationships. There's nothing I value more now in my life than sitting across from one of you at a coffee shop and talking about me and talking about you and talking about who we are and what makes us tick. I get way more out of that than just about anything else in the world. I walk away from those conversations with a bounce in my step. Even if I walked into that conversation down, I walk out of it with a bounce in my step. I love the people that give me the freedom to be me, the freedom to be honest, the freedom to tell the ugliness sometimes of the reality of my life, and yet still embrace, still love, still hug, still are kind and patient, and all of those things. That's, to me, what I value. And I value it immensely, immensely. Matter of fact, I dare say I can't exist the same way I exist without it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's so important to me. And I think we see this here, and I will read it to you. The first thing we see is Jehoash, this king. And this is just kind of random because we're all the way over in 2 Kings 13. And this is the last sermon in this series of Elijah and Elisha. And we just this is skipping ahead several chapters even from where Austin was, but it's the last time we see Elisha. And it says this: in the 37th year of Joash, king of Judah, Jehoash, son of Jehoahaz, became king of Israel in Samaria. Sorry, verse 10. I'm getting ready to go into verse 11. King of Israel in Samaria, and he reigned 16 years. So 2 Kings 13, now we're in verse 11. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and did not turn away from any of the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, which he had caused Israel to commit. He continued in them. As for the other events of the reign of Jehoash, all he did and his achievements, including his war against Amaziah, king of Judah, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Israel? Jehoash rested with his ancestors, and Jeroboam succeeded him on the throne. Jehoash was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel. That's what we see about him. That's kind of the span of his life there. And it says he was evil. He didn't correct these things, right? Now, we back up into his life in the next few verses. We see that he lived and died in those verses, but then we back up to a portion of his life in this next verse, and we see the death of Elisha. We see the death of Elisha. It says, now Elisha had been suffering, verse 14, now Elisha had been suffering from the illness from which he died. So whatever finally got him, he was in the middle of. Something's going to get us eventually, and Elisha was in that process. Jehoash, king of Israel, went down to see him and wept over him. My father, he cried, the chariots and horsemen of Israel. It's interesting to me that even though the description of Jehoash was one that he was an evil king and he didn't use his power in the way that would bring about good, that he still had this relationship with Elisha. And then when Elisha was sick, he came and spent time with him and cried over him. And they spent time together. As you'll see, there's a little conversation that happens here. Our friendships are not simply based on whether somebody goes to church or not, but maybe are based on the fact that they're my neighbor, or they're my coworker, or they're this person. And we live a life in such a way that the people that even maybe are living in a way that is destructive or is bringing a bit of harm or is not leading in a good path are still able to have conversations with us, are still able to come into our presence and receive kindness and know that they're in a safe space with us to be able to talk about whatever they need to talk about, because you never know where they're at in that process, right? You never know what they may need. And I love the fact that Elisha, even though Jehoash was an evil king, he was still able to have this conversation with him. I think that's so neat. That's so cool. I think sometimes we see ourselves as being like somehow, and maybe not in this room, but I think the danger is that we see ourselves as being somebody that God loves, and then we see other people as people that God doesn't. And anytime we have that dynamic, man, it is so easy to look down at people. It is so easy to think we're better than somebody else. It just is. It just is. I've told you about my little, I got an icon around my neck. And I don't really wear it for show. But I try to wear it most of the time. If it's not like dangling like a, like an 80s TV star or something with my shirt, I'll usually wear it. Anyway, I don't like to David Hasselhoff it if I can help it, but for those of you that are older like me. But this is really special to me. This is really special to me, and I told you about it, but it's probably worth reminding. This is called, when I say an icon, it's not something that I worship, but it's an icon. It's a painting that was done years ago in Russia, of all places, and it's of the it's called the Hospitality of Abraham, and it's when the three angels visit Abraham, and it's a depiction of that scene, and there's three of them sitting there, and the idea behind the painting was that those three are the Trinity. And again, I don't know who those three were. It certainly seems that one was, at the very least, a pre-incarnate visitation from Christ. It seems that way. But the way a lot of people have seen it in the past is that was the Trinity, and this depicts that. And these three are sitting, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are sitting around the table, and it's a 4-place table. And they're sitting around the table, all facing out, and there's one place left empty, and there's a little square in the middle of that setting. And people believe that when that first was painted, they put a looking glass or a mirror in that little square so that everybody that came up and saw their reflection in that place at the table, so that everybody knew they had a place at the table. And so the reason I wear it is it's just a kind of it bangs off of my chest when I'm moving around. It's there. It reminds me. And every time I feel it, I try to remember that every single person that I talk to, every single person I come across has a seat at the table, just like me. And I love that I see that in Elisha here with this king who was not a great guy, but at the end of his life, he knew he could come into Elisha and mourn him, and Elisha accepted him in. And I think we need to be willing to have some of these conversations, maybe with people that wouldn't grace the doors of a church right yet. That we would be willing to do that, and people would know they can come to us. Right? Because everybody has a seat at the table. So, now Elisha had been suffering from this. He comes in and mourns in verse number 15. Elisha said, "Get a bow and some arrows." And I'll be honest, I don't understand what's happening here, so we'll get... and he did so. So he takes a bow and arrow. Has anybody ever seen Monty Python and Search of the Holy Grail? Anybody? I mean, you can be honest. We're in church. Dude, every time I read this story, I can't help but think back to when the effeminate boy's up in the tower and his dad's talking to him, and he goes over and he writes the note, and then he shoots the arrow outside, and the messenger's walking alongside Sir Lancelot, and the arrow hits him in the chest, and he's like, "Message for you, sir." Anyway, I love that. So anyhow, that's what reminds me of this. Elisha said, "Get a bow and some arrows," and he did so. "Take the bow in your hands," he said to the king of Israel. When he had taken it, Elisha put his hands on the king's hands. "Open the east window," he said, and he opened it. "Shoot," Elisha said, and he shot. "The Lord's arrow of victory, the arrow of victory over Aram." Elisha declared, "You will completely destroy the Arameans at Aphek." So he used this as a prophetic moment to show that he was going to defeat the king of Israel. And then he said, "Take the arrows," and the king took them. Elisha told him, "Strike the ground." He struck it 3 times and stopped. The man of God was angry with him and said, You should have struck the ground 5 or 6 times. Then you would have defeated Aram and completely destroyed it. But now you will defeat it only 3 times. And again, I don't know what the cultural, thing that was going on necessarily that would have made him think he should have hit the ground more than he did. But anyway, he didn't hit it as many times as Elisha thought he should have hit it. And so he said, you're only going to defeat this guy 3 times. It was still pretty good. But that's it. That's the end of this. And the next sentence is this. Elisha died and was buried. Elisha died and was buried. That was it. His chapter had ended. Not his chapter, the book had ended. His life is done. He died and was buried. Let me get one more story out of this. And I want to ask us just this question and have us think, and then we'll partake in the Lord's table. It says this. Now, Moabite raiders used to enter the country every spring. Once, while some Israelites were burying a man, suddenly they saw a band of raiders. So this band of raiders from Moab's coming down. They see it. They're trying to bury a guy. They got to do something with the body so they can get out of there. So they threw the man's body into Elisha's tomb. When the body touched Elisha's bones, the man came to life and stood up on his feet. That's wild. That's wild. Like throw a dead guy in a tomb and all of a sudden he comes walking back at you. Are we, and I want to ask a couple of questions just to think about before we Lord's Supper. Are we living a life, the life that God has given us? Are we living this life in a way that gives life to the people who walk away more alive than when they came into our presence? The other question I want to ask is this. When we are gone, because it's happening. It's happening. One of these days, we're going to be on that same journey that Elisha was on. Maybe we're on it now, we just don't know it. Who knows? But I had a twitch. You guys ever have a twitch where it just drives you nuts? I had a twitch in my lat. In my lat. There's not much of a lat there, but there's a lat there. I had a twitch in it, like for 3 days. Don't Google that. I'm like, Joy, I don't think I'm going to make it. This is not good. Yeah, I'm like, it seems benign enough, but I don't know. I mean, I'm doing them. I'm like 51. I'm like, I might have 3 good years left. I don't know. I got this twitch. But it's you never know, right? Point being. And as I looked at this, and as I had that time around people that I had never met before last week, that I walked away from full of life because of being around these people. It was one of those deals. It was such a cool trip. We ended up in New York City at the top of World Trade. The new World Trade. Well, obviously not the old one, but the new one, we were up there. And you're looking around, and I'm looking at Manhattan, and it's beautiful. And it's like, it's blowing your mind. And then one of the friends we met actually works at Spotify in World Trade, and is like, hey, come on over. And we're like, okay. And so we end up at Spotify. If you don't know, that's pretty cool. And we ended up in an apartment right off of Central Park eating New York pizza. It was wild. So much fun, and I enjoyed it so much, and we got on the plane, and we had so many stories of these conversations and these talks, and both Joy and I said, we're full. We're full. This is how full we were. Our plane got delayed, and we missed our connecting flight, and we were cool with it. We're like, whatever. The coolest part about it, we were delayed in Phoenix. We got to hang out with Alyssa. Isn't that cool? Even the bad stuff. I hate to even go on the next trip after all the good stuff happened on this trip. But it was just like, man, it was just so neat. And then I started thinking about this sermon, and I started thinking, man, I want people to walk away from an encounter with me, walking away going, I'm full. I'm full. I feel better about who I am. I feel better about life. I feel better about the troubles I'm in. I feel better because I know that even though I'm in the middle of all this, I have somebody to talk to. I have somebody that'll listen to me. I have somebody that'll look me in the eye. I have somebody that'll just listen and not talk about something else and not just be wandering off somewhere. Because I had so many of those conversations where they were all in, and it just filled me to overflowing. And that's the kind of person I want to be for everybody that comes across me. And my question is that who you want to be? Is that who we want to be? And then at the end of it all, what do we want to be remembered for? I started thinking about this. I don't think anybody's going to care about the stands that you took for righteousness' sake if you were a jerk in the process. Don't hear me wrong. I'm not saying don't take stands for righteousness' sake. I'm just saying the thing that should characterize us are the fruit of the Spirit as we do that. And as we do that, if we do that with love, joy, peace, patience, long-suffering, I think those are the same, and all the other ones. I hit the main ones. I think if we can do that, man, and people remember us and they remember our lives as we get older, and your kids will look back and they'll remember you fondly. Your kids will look back. I don't want when I leave this place, I don't want my kids to be like, oh, well. And what I started thinking about is, what about the times when I make people walk on eggshells because of my fragility? What about the times where I get all spun up about something that doesn't really matter? Man, there's so many areas of my life where I can make it easier for people to exist around me. I don't want it to be a good thing when I'm gone. I want to be missed. Not because I'm somebody special, but because I gave people life. You know what I mean? I want, when I've got my old dead bones there and somebody remembers me and they get a little touch of those old dead bones, it brings a smile to their face and a warmth to their heart because they know I cared and loved them, period. It's just a thought. So my question is, as we go into communion, we get to partake in this beautiful process of remembering the sacrifice of Jesus and who he is and what he's done for us. The bread being the symbolic of the broken body that he gave for us, and the juice being symbolic of the blood that he shed on our behalf to take away the sins of the world. My questions are this as we partake is, are we the type of people that when people come around us, they walk away with more life? And do we want to leave a legacy of being a life giver? Just think about that. Think about that. Dear Heavenly Father God, I ask that you would just speak to us. And God, help us. God, help us to be people that are known for being all in, that are known for being about others, that are known for living for you, Jesus, and being kind and loving like you, Jesus. Help us to be like you as you sat on that well, and that woman from Samaria, from a whole different culture, came up to you, and you were all in with her. Zacchaeus and the disciples, and just all these amazing examples of you being all in on a conversation, being life-giving. And now we have your Spirit in us, God. Help us to look like you in every way. And thank you for making the way for us to be able to do that through your shed blood and your broken body.